جنگ روسیه و اوکراین به مراحل حساسش رسیده. روسا دارن میرن به جلو، ترامپ داره پشت اوکراین خالی میکنه، اروپایی‌ها مستاصل شدن و یک سری سوالات هستش که همواره ما در خبرها روز به روز باهاشون مواجه میشیم. سلام، من پویا داوری هستم از کانال دکتر ژئوپلتیک خدمت شما رفقا. ما یه بخشی داریم تو بخش پلیلیست‌های یوتیوب که میایم به تحلیلگرای بزرگ دنیا میپردازیم. علاوه بر اینکه خودمون تحلیل میدیم، تحلیلگرای داخلی رو پیش میپردازیم، میام یه بخشی هم از تحلیلگرای بزرگ دنیا مثل مرشایمر، مثل جفری، ساکس و اینا رو پیش پرداخت میکنیم که شما از زوایای دید دیگه بتونید نگاه 360 درجه به موضوع داشته باشید. امروز با جفری ساکس هستیم. جفری ساکس یه اقتصاددان آمریکایی بزرگه که توی پسا شوروی تونست توی کشورهای اروپا شرقی بسیار اقتصاد رو کمک بده و موفقیت‌های تو آمریکای لاتین به دست بیاره. از منتقدان اقتصاد نئولیبرال ضد جنگ این آدم و در این ویدئویی که در ادامه داریم و از این نویسش کردیم براتون میاد به یک سری نکاتی میپردازه، به خصوص اینکه آقا فرق ناتو با OSCE چیه. OSCE سازمان امنیت همکاری اروپا یه سازمانیه که ترکیه و روسیه هم توش عضون و اساساً تفاوت‌هایی با ناتو داره. ناتو بر پایه اتحاد، این بر پایه امنیتیه که طرف مقابل و رقیبت هم تحریک نشه. حالا جفری ساکس میخواد بهش میپردازه و اینکه چقدر مهمه که توی مقطع اروپایی‌ها و روسا با هم شروع کنن صحبت کردن. شاید ایران میتونیم بهش فکر بکنیم، یعنی واقعا بچه‌های وزارت خارجه باید فکر کنن که ما میتونیم توی حوزه بازیگری بکنیم بین اروپا و روسا، چون الان بازیگری میانجی ندارن. چین میتونه این نقش رو بازی بکنه. آیا امروز این آمریکا میتونه بپذیره نظام چند قطبی رو، یا اینکه نه این به قول جفری ساکس یه قطاری داره حرکت میکنه و این آمریکایی‌ها جا میمونن؟ چون دنیا داره به نظم چند قطبی کوچ میکنه و آمریکا داره با این مبارزه. خب منطقیه، مزخی نظام تک قطبی داشته بخش از این کیکو داره بقیه دنیا میبره، بعد باش مبارزه کنه. اینجا باز آی ساکس بهش میپردازه و بازش میکنه. حالا یه نکته دیگه هم که از ذهنیت استعمار زده بریتانیایی که امروز تو آمریکا داریم. ببینید بریتانیا خب معروف به استعمارگر پیر و تمام دنیا رو خونشون رو تو شیشه میکنن. آمریکایی‌ها خب بعد جنگ جهانی اومدن گفتن که ما اون بریتانیا نیستیم، ما حالت لیبرال داریم، آزادی خواهیم. و آقای ساکس میدونیم یا نه این ذهنیت بریتانیایی استعماری داره روی آمریکایی‌ها میشینه. حالا نکته‌ای رو که بخوام بهتون بگم، خیلی مهمه که آقای دکتر مندی بحث زمستان سخت رو مطرح کرد و خیلی هم مورد شوخی و خنده و آزار قرار گرفتن ایشون. نکته‌ای که باید گفت اینه که در مورد خط لوله نورد استریم و جنگ اوکراین ما نکات مهمی داریم. مثلا یکیش اینه که اداره تخفیفی دولت آلمان شک گرفت که بیان آقا ببینن کی این خط لوله رو ترک کنه، چون فقط خط لوله مال روسا نبود که، مال بخشش کنسرسیومی بود، یه اشتراکی بود، یه شرکت‌های اشتراکی که اینو زده بودن واسه اینکه منافع ببرن. اما ما شاهد بودیم که هیچ خروجی نداد و جرئت نکردن بدن و خبرنگاری که تو این حوزه شروع کردن فعالیت کردن تهدید شدن و خروجی ندادن و ما شاهدیم که آلمان 3 سال اقتصادش رشد منفی داره. با هم بریم ببینیم جفری ساکس در این مورد چی برای ما میگه.
And as you well know, Jeffrey, it's been cheap Russian energy for so many decades has created the energy backbone of Europe. It created the industrial backbone with Germany, of course. So the cheap Russian energy, it's now gone. There are hopes perhaps Nord Stream could be turned back on. But when you talk about the sabotage of Nord Stream, clearly, obviously, it's got to have been, the U.S. intelligence services with their guys involved in this. But I just, who's throwing who under the bus? The Nord Stream wasn't just a Russian pipeline. It was a multi-European Russian consortium, a lot of European countries and companies involved there. By destroying the Nord Stream, it almost seems like America was throwing Europe under the bus.
I think that it was part of America's unipolar strategy that also part of its commercial strategy, let's add, because American liquefied natural gas companies scrambled to sell LNG to Western Europe at roughly 6 times the price that Europe was paying for Russia's low-cost pipeline gas. So there were some commercial interests, but there was a long-standing opposition in the United States to Nord Stream, partly because there was a long-standing view that Russia and Germany should not get too close to each other in an American-led world. But more fundamentally, in the American-led world, the main target was not Europe. The main target was Russia. This was stated repeatedly that the U.S. goal was to surround Russia with NATO. The U.S. goal was to make sure that Russia was a second-rate or third-rate power. All invidious. We had a remarkable Rand Corporation paper in 2019, which I find one of the most disgusting works coming out of U.S. officialdom, that said, basically, how do we extend Russia? How do we annoy Russia? How do we undermine Russia? That's a national goal. How about how do we cooperate with Russia? How do we make peace with Russia? How do we find security arrangements? If Rand was working on that, it would be good.
Yeah.
But that paper in 2019 is literally a list of ways to annoy, aggravate, and weaken Russia. That's what passes for U.S. policy, I'm sorry to say.
And these are supposed to be the adults in the room. It's just astonishing, and it's just been so depressing watching this for too many years now, Jeffrey. Just quickly, there was a leaked report published in the Western mainstream media suggesting that Trump, when it comes to talking to Russia, Trump might be willing to pull American troops out of NATO bases in Eastern Europe. Did you hear about that? Did you read it? Your thoughts on it?
Well, I read it. I think what is key is that Europe really needs a security arrangement, and it was heading towards one with the Organization of Security and Cooperation in Europe, with OSCE. OSCE is very different from NATO. NATO is your security comes through the U.S. military alliance. OSCE is your security comes through collective security, that we can't be safe if the other side is unsafe. So let's work together on assurances, on demilitarization, on neutral spaces, on other ways to protect everybody's security. We are at a stage now where Europe and Russia really need to sit down in a serious way, because there are serious issues on security on both sides, and they need to be discussed by serious people on both sides.
It wasn't, just a couple of months ago, a few months ago, Kazan, the beautiful cultural city of Kazan, had the enormous BRICS summit, many people calling it like literally the most important BRICS summit to date. When the Western political and media establishment shows Russia as being isolated on the world stage, Putin's got no friends, here we had this amazing show of unity in Kazan. Current members of BRICS, partner states joining, and so many waiting in the wings. Trump says BRICS is dead, threatening enormous tariffs for countries who want to veer away from the dollar in trade or might potentially hurt the dollar. But Jeffrey, we are witnessing this multipolar world forge its place on the global stage today. Is it possible that the G7 countries, or shall I say the European countries in America and Canada, are they too late to get on this train? Are they always going to be left on the platform, or will they perhaps get their senses together and try and cooperate with the new multipolar world?
I think the main point you just said is right. The world's actually multipolar. It's been multipolar for quite a while. I'm an economist, so I look at production capacity, I look at GDP, I look at trade, I look at industrial capacity in various sectors. We've been multipolar for quite a while. In fact, advanced technologies are everywhere. The idea that advanced technology is only in Silicon Valley is maybe comfortable for people in Silicon Valley or Washington, but it's just not right, because if you go to India, if you go to Russia, if you go to China, advanced technologies are part of a global scene right now. So this is the reality. The mindset in the United States up until a few weeks ago was no, this is a U.S.-led world. That was the Biden administration mindset, obviously wrong and rather dangerous, because it says we can push around anyone that we want to push around, obviously, if we just have enough will. The British mindset remains. Not only is it unipolar, it seems that the mindset is it's British. I don't know, but it's it's a little weird. The U.S. is a friendly hand to the British Empire. I'm not sure what the mindset is, but it still doesn't get it quite right. But as you say, look, the BRICS had 36 countries in Kazan. The countries were about half the world population. The membership of the BRICS today is around 40% of GDP measured at purchasing power parity. China's industrial capacity, like it or not, is bigger than America's. China's GDP, of course, is bigger than America's if measured at purchasing power adjusted prices, we're in a multipolar world. We need first to be peaceful in that world, avoid confrontation between the great powers that could take us to nuclear Armageddon, and we need to keep an open trading system. It's not going to be a US dollar dominated system. It's going to be a multi-currency system alongside a multipolar system. My hope is that we stay within international law. Very fragile, but I'm a believer in the UN Charter, and I want to make it work. And a multipolar world and a multilateral legal system at the global level is what we need for our safety, security, and prosperity.
If you could have a face-to-face sit-down with Donald Trump, what would you tell him about Russia, BRICS, and the multipolar world? What would your advice be?
You know, my advice is keep on the track with making peace with Russia. Make peace in the Middle East based on two states, because peace could come to the Middle East the same way with the two states, the state of Palestine established alongside the state of Israel. Make peace with China, just as you've done with Russia. And then we have the chance truly for a golden age, because we're in an age of phenomenal technological advance. And our biggest threat is the continuing conflicts.
رفقا نظرتون درباره ویدیو جفری ساکس چی بود؟ حتما برامون کامنت کنید. لایک، سابسکرایب، ارسال برای بقیه رفقا. حمایت یادتون نره، ما با حمایت شما میتونیم فعالیتمون رو ادامه بدیم و این سختی مسیر رو طی بکنیم. تو بخش کامنت ها پین شده روش‌های حمایتی، همچنین در قسمت متن. خیلی متشکرم، مخلصیم. پویا داوری از دکتر ژئوپلتیک. خدا نگهدارتون.